Hello, thank you for joining us, the Lazaridis School, for our Beyond the Degree series. My name is Graham McCormick, and I'm the Corporate Engagement Officer for the Lazaridis School of Business and Economics at Wilfrid Laurier University, and I'm a BBA alumnus from 2011. Today, we're joined by Priscilla Li, a BBA alumnus from 2003. Priscilla is currently the head of Capgemini's Applied Innovation Exchange in the UK. Based in London, Priscilla uses emerging technology and ideas to accelerate outcomes for her clients. She is an established leader when it comes to innovation and technology, and a founding member of ArtFinder, the first image recognition technology to discover and share and sell art. Priscilla, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks. Nice to be asked, Graham.
To get right into things, you did your BBA at the Lazaridis School. Why did you choose Laurier?
Yeah, you're winding back time. I applied to, I think, all the top business schools at the time, to be honest. And I think what really changed my mind when I visited Laurier, and I hope we all encourage people to still do that, I had a different kind of feeling of belonging, really, because I liked the message of the sense of collaboration that the school offered. It was very different from how I felt about the other business schools, that this was a collaborative school that was about doing things together and learning from each other. And the second thing was that co-op program. For me, coming from a family where not everything was given, I really wanted to make sure that I could pay for my education. And I thought if I could apply that early enough, it made a lot of sense. I also think there's nothing like learning as you go, right? You go to those courses, you get the theory, but the fact that you get to apply it, right away in a business context, I think really probably drove a lot of my career decisions too. So yeah, co-op and just the sense of culture and collaboration.
The co-op program, Lazaridis School is the largest degree co-op program in the country. Can you talk a little bit about what your first, couple co-op roles were and, how it impacted you when you would come back to campus, after a work term?
Yeah, I don't hope that everyone feels this way. I kind of feel very lucky. Wasn't my first co-op? Now you're really pushing my memory here. I'll let you know my most memorable. I don't know if it was my first one, but I joined a small consulting company called Digital Foresight. Don Tapscott, and if you Google him on YouTube, you'll see he's a forthinker in like blockchain and anything emerging tech. And he's published books as well. And he started this company. So it was a small kind of consulting firm. And I got to set up a kind of research consortium with a bunch of writers, people that really were publishing really interesting things about the hyper economy and social responsibility back in those days. Triple bottom line reporting. And this is before Enron. I mean, it was ahead of our time in terms of transparency and the need for businesses to respond to change. And I remember setting up that culmination of all that research at a conference in Palo Alto with the likes of like Lawrence Lessig, who's a foremost thought leader. Again, Google, if you look him up in TED Talks, amazing leader. The World Bank was there. We had CEOs there. I never imagined, that was a really amazing co-op experience. I never imagined I'd be rubbing shoulders with these C-suites at like, I don't know how old I was, but young, right? Like 19, 18, and being put up in a hotel and actually got the best suite, by the way, because they thought that I was the mover and shaker of it. But I was very lucky to be part of a small group of really intelligent people trying to make a difference. That was my first, one of my most memorable co-op. I don't think it was my first one. And it changed, actually, now that I think of it, it really probably changed how I thought about technology and, how I could probably influence. And I got published. I published white papers in there. And I had a copy of it. And I felt so proud that I could really be influencing people that are at the top. And I'm still in Laurier. So that was really cool.
That's an amazing story. And, just shows the impact of, what co-ops are empowered to do when they go out to their work terms. You started your career, in marketing and product management. Did you concentrate in marketing when you were a student? What drew you to this field?
Yeah, it's really great to reflect on these questions, Graham, to be honest, because I just had a chat with my friends I met in Laurier about what had really influenced us to take these career paths, as you said. And that made me think about some of my profs. So I remember Susan Getchell, and I doubt that she's still there, and I wish I could call her up now. I think she had a lot to do with me deciding to go into high-tech marketing product development. And I say that because she was teaching a high-tech marketing course. It was an elective at the time. She is an Asian woman, probably the only one at the time that I can recall. And I don't think at the moment I realized the influence she had on me, because I was reflecting, especially with the whole movement of women empowerment, and not so long ago, International Women's Day, right? I don't think that people can fully be in the world if they don't see themselves in it. And I realized, you know what, I'm not excluded in that. I saw her, leading our class and talking about things that were of the present time. Back in 2000 and let's just say 1 or 2, she was talking about, take a look at some of the high-tech companies that are inspiring you. At the time, my project was on Apple, and Apple hadn't even launched the music store yet. I mean, we're talking way back when. And that was another reason I invested in Apple early, because I had done the research that the class required. And I'm not gonna lie, I made some money off of that, right? But she inspired me to think about what we were learning in the context of the businesses operating today. I remember she was even saying, what kind of business international marketing would you take from another country that you think would work in Canada, or vice versa? And Graham, I think you'll appreciate this. One of the groups did pret-a-manger. I'm like, I don't even know what pret-a-manger is. Now I live in London. I know what that is. And now I kind of get that the suggestion of it working in New York, which, by the way, it's in New York, it made a lot of sense. So yeah, she actually inspired me. So one, seeing someone doing the work that I might want to do. And I just really loved it. I loved it. And then I think I stuck to my guns, to be honest. I got a lot of offers around finance, because great thing about the BBA, get to try all these things. And I had a co-op in Technion, which was like a furniture company, but it was all around finance, financial management and accounting. I did well, and they offered me an opportunity after graduation. It took a lot out of me to say no. A stable opportunity, but I kind of stuck to my guns, because I'm like, I really like this high-tech marketing product development thing. There's something there. Stuck to my guns, and then I got a job opportunity at Bell, just doing exactly that. How lucky was I? So.
But that wasn't, Laurier wasn't the last time you went to school. So, in addition to your BBA, you have an MBA in strategy and technology from the University of Cambridge. How did your undergraduate education help you? During that MBA program, in completing that degree?
Yeah, I'm so glad I looked abroad to just, advance my education. And I'll be honest with you, Graham, I think the acceptance rate at that time was like less than 10% for that program. And I'm like, I don't know, am I going to get in? Do they know the Lazard's brand? Do they know Laurier, right? And I would say my tip for anyone thinking, yeah, what about that? I had a story to tell. I mean, just the stuff I told you, writing that all down in my essays and being certain about what I wanted to do and the difference I was going to make. And I was proud to say I'm coming from a university that I considered to be in the rock bed of what would be a Silicon Valley of Canada. And guess where I was going? Cambridge is the Silicon, we call it Silicon Fen. It's the Silicon Valley of UK. I think just it really helped me be grounded in, again, what I want to do, what I'm going to do, how am I going to leverage my education from the BBA into a master's degree and do everybody proud and myself proud of the impact I'm going to make. So I think I might have had a bit of doubt kind of coming from Canada, thinking I'm up against all these international candidates, a class of 150, but hey, guess what? We made it. So yeah.
I think, your point of being able to tell a story and, for our students, it doesn't really matter, to a degree on, what you do is how do you parlay that into your story, and, how do you communicate that to, be it employers or recruiters. So I think that's, really insightful. Now, you came to the UK to do your graduate degree. what impact did going to school in a completely different country, have on you and your growth and in your growth in your career?
A huge. I think if I were to name a couple of the pivotal points in my life that changed the trajectory of my life, it was to come to the UK. You know, I think coming from Canada or any country, you kind of know that well. And then to be able to have the confidence to navigate all of that understanding and skill set in a completely foreign country is another. It also made me really appreciate what I brought to the table and being Canadian and coming from our business school, which I said was collaborative. Guess what? That was part of my essay in Cambridge, because Cambridge was equally collaborative and collegiate type of atmosphere. So kind of knowing how do you take what you have and how do you transfer that in a completely foreign land? And it is foreign, by the way. I know you're like, oh, is it foreign? UK, we're all speaking British and English. No, I'm telling you, it is very different. Sense of humor, everything. And being one of the few Canadians actually made it quite exotic and unique. And it is different. What we bring to the table multiculturally, our kind of mindset, it is different. And I was lucky to sit in a class of 50 other cultures and nationalities. So I was one of maybe 4 Canadians, and I think one of two or three Torontonians, and a few from the West Coast, Vancouver. So yeah, for me, it gave me a real sense of valuing where I came from, the diversity we have to bring to the table. And it is different. Canadian ideology, it's different. And sitting shoulders to shoulders with what I would say are best friends of mine from Nigeria to Peru. And I'm really confident, especially after that experience, to say, yeah, I have something quite unique to bring to the table, new points of view. So yeah, I highly encourage not to let where you come from necessarily hold you back from where you could go. And I do wish that more of us explored that potential, because it changes your life. Yeah.
Well, talking about changing your life, one of the roles you had prior to joining Capgemini is you had a stint with American Airlines, and you were responsible for driving the vision, strategy, and performance for all of their international websites. What was that experience like? Being a Canadian, working in the UK for an American business.
Yeah, definitely. I never would have predicted that, right? Working for American Airlines as a Canadian in the UK. And the remit was large. I mean, the international websites, as you said, there's so many of them. And again, I guess when you think about it, I was probably a great fit, considering, again, my multicultural background and exposure and understanding and empathy of different cultures. And I had people that worked in Japan, Tokyo, to teams in Spain, to Lima, to the US. They were all located in different places. And what was really interesting about it when I first signed up is literally I got the job offer a few days after American Airlines announced bankruptcy and that they would have to merge with US Airways to become the biggest airline. And I was like, hold up, job offers on the table. But I remember emailing them and say, are you sure this offer is still on the table? I mean, there's a lot going on. And I remember, like, this is the reason why it's on the table, because we're going to go through a lot of change. And I think that's a common thread in my career. When I say innovation, it means just a different way of doing things, challenging always what can be done so that you have the best impact and hopefully a more positive future. And I was actually really encouraged when they said that. And that's why we're bringing you on. This is going to be some really challenging times. Are you still up for it? I guess is the question. So yeah, you know what, let's see how it's going to go. So not only managing those international websites and platform, but during the biggest merger that has ever happened in the airline industry. Again, it kind of gave me the confidence that I can apply my skill sets in a very different context, but using the similar skills of just pushing the boundary of what we can do at this time. And also kind of, again, this really international group of people, and having them trust the journey that we're gonna make a difference here. We're gonna get out of this, storm. So I think resilience, I think I started building that resilience, and I think you probably would agree that this is the time to have a tough backbone, right?
Well, absolutely. Coming into that situation, and the opportunities that you had to learn, that's invaluable. That, I think you're able to bring to your current role. And how have the things you've learned throughout your career, as well as your time at the Lazaridis School, really translated to your current role as head of applied digital innovation at Capgemini?
Mm. I'd like to think that the school experience, and I hope the students feel this way, is that you're not really narrowed in the beginning to like make a decision right away. And I think that opportunity to explore and to really to flex that curiosity, I never felt held back by that, right? During my time at the business school. And I kind of always wanted that, demanded that of my jobs going forward. And more, if I look at my job at Bell in product development, and when we're trying to figure out how to make money to supplement the landline revenue that we're losing to like high speed internet. And then, like I said, American Airlines and so forth, it was this kind of constant exploring options, right? And I'm so glad that I had a lot of that breadth at school to be able to see all these different angles, right? So it's not just going right in specifically. And yeah, I think that it helped kind of make sure that when I made a decision to join Capgemini, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I'm a typical consultant, think about the background, but they loved that I had this appetite for problem solving. And it didn't matter which industry. If you think about it, I've leaped all these different industries because I just curious. Can I do this in public sector? Can I try this in art? Can I do the same thing in telco and airline? I mean, but the thread is always, we're going to push the art of the possible. And that's what this job's about. You've got to tell us, how can you solve the most complex problems using new approaches and new technologies? I'm so lucky to have that job. And what drew me to it is like that variety, right? That variety that we can do this, and we're going to try to learn from other industries and sectors and apply it differently. So that application, again, the connecting the dots has been really a thrill. And that's why I said yes.
And I think you make a great point. One of the strengths of the business program is that you get an opportunity to expose yourselves to a lot of different things, both business and non-business classes, and what allows you to be on a level of a generalist, but then really tackle and specialize in be it technology, be it entrepreneurship, finance, accounting, perhaps some of the more traditional pillars. But that's it's really great to hear. I'm just looking, and I'm noticing we're almost out of time for today, but I'd like to ask you one last question. During your time in London, you've been a member of the Dean's Advisory Council. Why is it important for you to stay connected with the Lazaridis School and with Laurier as an alumni?
Well, you can already tell the story starts at Laurier, right? And I love this quote by T.S. Eliot, is like, you kind of arrive, I don't know the exact quote, but it's basically arrive back where you started, but you know this place for the first time. That's real. That's what exploration is what T.S. Eliot says. Real exploration is arriving at the place you started and knowing it for the first time. And I think there's something really special about knowing kind of where you came from, but also that there's a community that we share, right, Graham, of people that have been through in a formative years that experience that no doubt has shaped how I've decided to build my community going forward. And I think it's such a loss if we don't keep those connections. There's almost like an unspoken, we had this like, 2003 and you're, 2005 or whatever. And knowing that, okay, we went through the same thing, right? We don't have to go through the beginning chatter, because it's almost like we're going to start at an elevated level of understanding of what we value and how we're going to make a difference. And to me, that network is invaluable. And that's one of the reasons why you call me up and I pick up the phone, done, So yeah, it's to me a real sense of community, which I think we need more than ever. And I would just hope that everyone, don't lose sight of that. That is more important than
I think that's some great advice, both for, our current students and our alumni and our incoming students, that, the Laurier and the Lazaridis School brand is strong, but it's strong, with those who've been there. And, my experience has always been, you can pick up the phone and call any alumni. And, the type of person who comes to Laurier, they're always going to be willing to pick up that call, be it if they graduated, 5 years ago, 15 or 25. So, thanks for highlighting that. And thanks for, sharing your experience today. I know it will be of great value to the Lazaridis School and the Laurier community. Don't forget to follow the Lazaridis School on our social accounts to stay up to date on important information. Thank you for watching Beyond the Degree with Priscilla Li, Head of Applied Digital Innovations at Capgemini, and a graduate from the Lazaridis School BBA program.